So last week I said solo players should probably uninstall Dune Awakening. My comment section, it looked like I upset a whole guild of sandworm cultists. You all roasted me, straight tied me up and was ready to burn me at a stake. And yeah, I kinda deserved it. One of my subscribers set me straight almost immediately. I don't see any of this stuff you're talking about as a problem. I'm a solo casual player and just spent my first week out in the deep desert. I don't mind that half of the map is PvP. Also note that I'm someone that hates PvP in games, but I thought it was thrilling and a rush every single trip I made to the PvP zone for titanium, spice, and strat. My server is somewhat active, maybe 3 encounters all week. Play smart, don't get greedy, and if the worm bar goes red, you just fly up for a minute. These blown out of proportion perspectives about these patch notes are what's hurting the game, not the developers. Ouch. But you know what? I wasn't mad at them, I was intrigued. And this got me thinking, what if I was wrong all along? Is there more to the life of a solo player in Dune? This subscriber doesn't even like PvP in games, but found the deep desert thrilling. Then you have Aussie Ann who writes, I'm a solo player and I don't really have any troubles with gankers as you put it. I'm ex-military, so maybe it's the fact I don't play a game in a danger zone like a game, I play it as if it was real. All you need to do is get better and stop playing a survival game like a game, and play it as if it was real. Thanks for your service, by the way, Uzi. So, have we been wrong about the solo player experience in Dune? While I was busy complaining about PvP zones, bugs, exploits, and resource competition, some of you were out there proving solo play isn't just doable, it might actually be rewarding. If you are a solo player or new to the game and are interested in finding out how these pro solo players are handling Dune, stick around because I know there is at least one of these tips you won't know. After being overwhelmed with subscribers defending the solo experience, I realized I was looking at this all wrong. I uncovered 3 distinct solo player advantages that show why flying solo can beat rolling with a guild. And if you stick around for the end of this, I'll give you 10 community tested tips that'll help you crush Arrakis on your own terms. But first, solo mains, what's your toughest moment so far? Drop it in the comments because I'm reading every single one, and subscribe if you haven't already because Funcom sure ain't going to pay me, but then again, Uber ain't either. Alright, so here are 3 solo advantages nobody talks about. Starting with speed, solo players move faster. Guild coordination sounds great on paper, but in reality, you're waiting for 12 people to log in, agree on a plan, and actually execute it. Meanwhile, solo pilots are already harvesting spice while the guild is still debating which ornithopter to take. Solo play forces you to become well-rounded, unlocking multiple skill trees and creating hybrid builds that get overlooked when you're locked into a guild role. Second is stealth. You're basically invisible. Large guilds paint massive targets on themselves. Every faction knows where they operate and when they move resources, but a solo player slipping into a spice field at 3 AM? Nobody's tracking that. That ghost status means fewer ambushes and more successful spice hauls. And third, survival instincts. Solo players develop superior survival instincts. When you can't rely on backup, you learn to read situations faster, commit escape routes to memory, and sharpen risk assessment until it's second nature. Solo players often cover more map ground than group patrols during sessions, giving them broader exposure to random resource nodes and world events. Here's what might be happening. Some players struggling with solo difficulty might be trying to play like they have guild support. They're taking the same risks, hitting the same resource nodes, following the same predictable patterns, but smart solo players are writing their own playbook. And I don't blame anyone for missing this, because some of us are solo players because of circumstances. Your dirtbag homies straight got bored because they rushed endgame and now they are gone. And don't act like I'm the only one that got friends like that. If I was solo, I probably wouldn't think to be so adaptable either, which is why I'm dropping proven strategies that solo players use daily. Everyone knows MMO solo play isn't easier, but let me break down what actually works based on your feedback and successful solo strategies. First of all, resource timing is everything. If your server turns into a war zone around 8 PM, don't run into the chaos, wait it out. Smart solo players grab titanium at 10 PM, 6 AM, or whenever it's quiet or everyone else is asleep. Early mornings or late nights give you the best shot at staying alive while stacking resources. Territory selection matters more than gear. Instead of fighting for contested areas, successful solos find secondary locations that still provide decent resources. You might get 80% of the materials for 20% of the risk. Now I know some of you think this sounds like playing scared, but the game gives you tools, you just have to use them. The respawn beacon strategy is crucial. Pro players emphasize that respawn beacons are greatly undervalued and recommend placing them whenever you're pushing into new areas as temporary checkpoints. This saves hours of backtracking when things go wrong. Common sense, right? But how many of you think nothing's gonna happen to me today and skip this step? I don't know about you guys, but that's the story of my life. But here's the truth about solo players: some solo players are actually having more consistent fun than some guild members. There's something pure about solo achievement, and when you finally get that tier 6 gear or complete a difficult resource run, you know you earned every bit yourself. The class system rewards solo players in unexpected ways. Unlike group play where specialization is encouraged, solo play forces well-rounded development, creating versatile hybrid builds that would be wasted in a guild role. But that said, I'm not pretending solo play is easy mode. Let's be honest about where solo play genuinely struggles. The content drought at endgame affects everyone. However, solo players have fewer options to create their own entertainment. Guild drama might be annoying, but it does provide ongoing social content. One subscriber, Joe, summed up the endgame challenge perfectly. I got tier 6 in the crawler, nothing left to do. Endgame is horrid. Equipment loss hurts more when you're grinding alone. Another subscriber, Cully, shared a frustrating experience. Lost 4 sets of tier 6 gear and ornithopters to server lag and sandworm glitches. That's devastating for anyone, but a guild can help you bounce back faster with shared resources and backup gear. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Cully, that sucks, even with the help with guildies. But imagine a solo player losing their items. The progression grind is particularly intense for solo players. Resource requirements for higher tier crafting can feel overwhelming without guild support. Tasks that might take a coordinated group a few hours could take solo players significantly longer. Base maintenance becomes a solo burden. You can't split power costs or share defensive responsibilities. When you log off, your base is completely vulnerable. Combat encounters scale poorly for solo players, and the stealth system is underdeveloped, and once one enemy in an area is alerted, every other enemy usually follows suit. Knowledge gaps exist too. Guilds share strategies, optimal builds, and meta information. Solo players figure out everything themselves or rely on external communities like YouTube or better yet me. And that's like the blind leading the blind. But have no fear, guys. Before you decide solo play isn't for you, here are 10 community tested strategies. Number 1, master the warning systems. The sandworm detection bar isn't just decoration. Red means move, yellow means be ready. Most solo deaths happen because players ignore early warnings. Number 2, diversify your farming routes. Don't become predictable. Split runs into ore-focused and spice-focused trips, and avoid patterns that make you easy targets. Number 3, use terrain as your guild. High ground, narrow passages, and escape routes matter more when you don't have backup. Scout before you commit. Number 4, time your deep desert runs for low population periods. Check server activity and plan accordingly. Early morning and late night often offer the best solo opportunities. And number 5, prioritize mobility over cargo capacity. Scout ornithopters with Mk5 wings and engines give maximum velocity. Speed saves lives. Number 6, keep backup gear in your home base. Don't risk all your tier 6 equipment on every expedition. Use decent but replaceable gear for risky runs. Number 7, learn the unofficial safe zones. The deep desert has PvE areas behind the shield wall where PvP is not enabled. Perfect for solo players testing endgame waters. Number 8, master diplomatic retreat. If you encounter other players, sometimes a friendly greeting works better than immediate flight. Most players aren't looking for easy prey if you seem confident. I mean, don't you guys remember doing this in high school? Acting like you can fight and get all loud with that fool? Same thing, be confident, but just real like life, you better be ready to run if it don't work. Number 9, use the environment as camouflage. Fly at 500-meter altitude with minimal loadouts and light armor for stealth approaches. Number 10, build relationships with other solo players. You don't need formal guilds to occasionally team up with other solos or guilds. Meet people. The game is big, but it ain't that big. Now that you've got the basics down, let's talk advanced tactics. Resource management for solo players differs completely from guild play. Smart solos prioritize fuel cells and water early, avoiding long-range expeditions until these are secured early game for you newcomers. Ornithopter optimization becomes critical. Scout chassis with Mk5 wings and engines provide maximum speed and glide efficiency, going from 160 to 173 glide speed instantly. Base location strategy changes dramatically for solo players. Some builders recommend positioning above caves, near shipwrecks, or close to buried testing stations to access enemy spawns for water generation through death stills. Here's something most players sleep on. The deep desert gives solo builders a huge edge with 50% reduced building costs compared to Haga Basin. That means unlocking high-tier tech way faster for way less. If you're grinding solo, the deep desert is actually one of the best places to establish operations. For spice farming, experienced players recommend a hit-and-run approach where you deploy the compactor multiple times, then use your ornithopter to hover and reset the sandworm detection before repeating the process. Now let me address the elephant in the room. The deep desert is challenging for solo players, but it's far from impossible. The deep desert has two distinct zones, a PvE area running from row A to midpoint row E, and a PvP zone from midpoint row E to row I. This gives solo players substantial safe territory for learning the ropes. The weekly Corylus Storm reshapes the desert, shifting loot, objectives, and terrain to keep exploration fresh. This actually benefits solo players by regularly resetting established guild territorial advantages. The sandworm becomes much more dangerous here, so come prepared with gear like Idaho soft step boots to reduce aggression. But here's the thing, the worm itself isn't your biggest threat. Other players are. A sandworm emergence basically sends up a giant signal flare announcing your exact location to everyone nearby. The deep desert is volatile and ever changing. What works depends heavily on your server's population, so adaptability is key. Based on community testing, certain builds perform better for solo play. For new solo players, here are some tips that may help you get going. Most players currently use powerful Swordmaster focused melee builds in PvE for huge damage, plus incredible movement and maneuverability. For solo players, this damage and mobility combination is good for survival for PvE, but in this game, most builds work well. Combat encounters require different tactics for solo players. When facing rocket attacks, gain altitude and glide while weaving left and right to force enemies to waste ammunition. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Resource gathering can be quite profitable for solo players. A well-planned ornithopter spice run can yield substantial amounts of raw spice, which converts efficiently into spice melange for trading and crafting. The biggest help for solo players is getting the buggy for mining. It increases output exponentially. Just ensure you have a water economy rolling to support your spike in production capacity. Here's the thing about Dune Awakening in solo play. The game isn't perfectly designed for it, but it's not nearly as hostile as some of us initially thought. The real question is whether the developers at Funcom will recognize solo players as a legitimate audience and design content accordingly. The developers supposedly have been working on expanding PvE content options, including existing instanced areas like ecology labs designed for smaller groups. So we do have some content coming up, and it should be for PvP and PvE players. Based on your comments, there's clearly appetite for solo-friendly content. Maybe instance dungeons, solo-specific progression paths, or PvE-focused areas that don't require guild coordination. Some solo players feel that playing solo isn't a disadvantage. It's a different mindset. Many say it delivers a more raw and immersive survival experience, one that feels truer to the spirit of Arrakis, and instead of just fighting players, you're surviving the planet itself, and that's where the real game begins. Mad respect to my solo players that are owning it. One experienced solo player noted they prefer playing solo since it feels like the entire progression journey is mine, and they enjoy the grind. Solo viability varies dramatically by server population and player mentality. Some players report positive solo experiences, while others find certain servers more challenging for solo play. The bottom line is this: after diving deep into community feedback and actual player experiences, I guess solo play in Dune Awakening is absolutely viable, but requires a different approach than guild play. You'll need to be smarter about how you approach content. You won't progress as fast as organized guilds, but you'll have a more authentic survival experience. The players thriving solo have embraced the game's survival mechanics rather than fighting against them. They've learned to read server populations, optimize their loadouts, and most importantly, adjusted their expectations. If you go into Dune Awakening expecting to compete directly with organized guilds, you'll be frustrated. But if you embrace the challenge of surviving Arrakis on your own terms, you might find it's exactly the experience you were looking for. The evidence shows that solo players can access all content, craft all gear, and even thrive in the deep desert with the right strategies. So guys, what do you think? Are you convinced that solo play is more viable than we thought? Or do you still think the game pushes too hard toward guild membership? And hey, to all the solo players who disagreed and decided to speak up in the comment section, looks like you didn't need a guild after all. You were too busy actually playing the game to care what others think, and I respect that. Now, if you made it this far, thanks for your support. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, because if you do, you're cool as hell, and if not, well, I hope you step in sandworm poop. And with that, I'm out. Peace.